this is Irving Steele, your host of Local Issues, and today we are very excited to have a special guest traveling down to the shoreline of Connecticut. Her name is Fariba Marvasti, and she is the president of the Central Connecticut chapter of SIM and CIO. Very talented and very grateful for you to be here today.
Lovely being here, and thank you for the invitation. Appreciate it. Very excited.
Of course. And one thing that really astounded me about you is that you're really known as kind of this leader and this change agent. And I was curious kind of how you came about this and what makes you special in this regard.
Yeah, I think change is a constant in everybody's life. And if I were to consider myself, I'm a change catalyst. But part of this, from my perspective, is the transformation and opportunity to bring in solutions to complex challenges. And by recognizing and starting with people and giving the opportunity to describe what is the goal and the strategy, and then giving a space to the teams to be able to some level, have autonomy and say in the process of change, and they will work with you as team members, as individuals and leaders to help you make that difference and that change. If I were to think about some of my activities and history, part of digital engagement and change, I would describe that it's important to recognize what is the journey that the consumer needs to experience and how you might be able to engage them. And that's where the opportunity came about, where as part of the modernization of the digital capabilities, I was able to, working with my business partners as well as team members, to really bring about change as it relates to the engagement, claims submission, as well as involvement of the consumer at the very heart of the process.
Yeah, and I think it's really fascinating that you talk about this change, and you're obviously a technology expert and you've led different organizations in the technology realm. But one thing I continue to hear you talk about is kind of the people element. And even with this age of AI and all these changes that we're going through, you as a leader working with all these different organizations and these different people, you still come back to the people element of the change.
I think the center of everything, strategy is very important. Putting a roadmap is very important.
Yeah.
But the true center and the focus needs to be on the people.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones that make the change happen. Okay, a typical tool capability, whether it's AI, RPA, or any other solution, is just a tool without people leveraging it and really bring about the innovation and the necessary thinking around it. And as part of that change, to enable that change, you really need to not only set the strategy, but also collaborate and incrementally bring value so that people get excited around the value proposition of it. And that it's not something that is 2 years out, 5 years out, it's here and now, and that they can see that strength of the value of the solution.
And I appreciate how you say kind of these incremental changes that, especially we work with some of these larger organizations, and we think that sometimes people say, oh, it's too big to change. You're just one little cog in the wheel, and you can't make an impact and can't make that change. But through your leadership of these small incremental changes, you really can see a much larger impact.
That's right. Over time.
Over time. Of course, and
Absolutely.
things take time as well. You have to
That's
have that
right.
patience as well.
Over time. Yes.
Yeah, awesome. And one thing that we keep hearing about in the news recently and different organizations throughout the region is trying to find ways to cut costs,
Sure.
particularly around information technology. And I was really amazed. I heard that you were going around and helping organizations to save something like 20, 30, even 40%
Sure.
of their IT costs.
Yes.
How is that possible?
Yes.
What's the magic?
What's the magic? Well, I have had the opportunity of doing some free advisory with other CIOs where they can look at areas of opportunity and identify cost savings. But I think we need to be careful where to look around cost savings. You know, part of the cost savings is not necessarily obvious places. It's areas of consolidating vendors, for example, looking at redundancies, looking at business processes that you could re-engineer to some degree and bring automation, and really understanding of how technology solutions that are available at hand can plug in some of the challenges around the entire ecosystem, and then that would create savings. And the other dimension of savings is really partnering with your procurement, partnering with your finance area, partnering with business partners, so that it is not just the cost cutting, but there is a value proposition, and that you're intrinsically bringing some new capability and or solution to the organization. And that's how you can really think about cost savings. I can tell you a little story about nearshoring, and I did have the experience around nearshoring and really looking at over 200 resources that were located in a nearshore manner. Therefore, the cost of it was similar to domestic
For our viewers who don't
vendors.
know nearshoring, want to explain what that is?
Sure. So you either have onshore, which is here in domestically, right? Or you have nearshore, so that's within your time zones, if you will, U.S. time zones. So that could be in Latin America, it could be in Canada. So it's more closer. And then there's the offshore, which is tend to be a different time zone and a significantly lower cost. And usually nearshore is somewhere between 30 and 40% lower than domestic cost. And then the offshore, it tends to be anywhere between 60 to 75% lower, right? So with that said, we were able to take a look at a new strategy around Latin America, look at multitude of vendors and selecting the most strategic vendors to partner with them in Latin America, specifically in Mexico. And as part of that transition and nearshoring is looking at every individual, reviewing whether or not they are subject matter experts or whether or not they can be transitioned, whether that particular individual can be transitioned to that location and therefore 30-40% reduced cost, and or can they be providing knowledge transition to a new individual, and then questioning whether or not those resources were absolutely critical for them to be in this time zone, or can they be offshored? And as part of that, we were able to save millions of dollars, but at the same time, make sure that we are doing it in a very strategic manner. We're not disrupting the business and the various projects that were at hand while we were actually achieving the savings, working with the line managers, with procurement, as well as the various leaders and business community. And that's just an example of a situation.
That's perfect. And it isn't something, I like how you make this a really important point. It isn't that you're just completely cutting costs where the functionality is lost or the systems aren't working.
That's right.
You're actually cutting costs and adding value to the organization, which is vital.
Exactly. And then sometimes, those individuals have been around the organization, and are they still necessary for them to be part of the projects? Are they critical path? So it's opportunity to ask those questions. I know that recently I worked with a CIO, a local CIO, and I looked at their telecom capabilities. And with very small modifications, we were able to really reduce their cost and their invoices by going back to the same vendor and basically suggesting that if they don't give the right level of service and discounts, we can move to another telecom. And they were happy to accommodate. And it was a win-win. Very little migration cost, but definitely savings for that CIO.
And that's amazing. And it's powerful, too, to have kind of this extra set of eyes or a different set of eyes who can come in and see where there's all these different opportunities. I keep hearing about it here locally. A lot of towns and schools are in budget talks right now. And they're talking about increasing the budget by 10% or 15% or 20%. And some of these things are hard because a lot of the costs are contributed to information technology, where maybe bring someone in with your expertise, there could be thousands, millions of dollars of savings.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, I've been always fortunate enough in the type of roles that I've had where I was able to not only be able to solve some of the complex challenges, but also reduce cost, and with the investment that was being made by the organization, have definite clarity around return on investment. So that part of it is very important for anyone who looks at any opportunity around cost savings, to look at all the places that oftentimes people forget to do, and oftentimes people just go directly around reduction on labor, whereas there is so much more opportunity around consolidation, alignment, and renegotiation at times.
So if some of our viewers are working with different organizations looking for different opportunities and strategies, would you be willing to potentially talk with them and
I would love that.
Use some of your wisdom and expertise?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yes. Knowledge is to be used.
Definitely.
Not to be heard.
And you're using it now. I understand you're the president of the
That's right.
Central Connecticut chapter.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit more about what that entails?
Sure. This is the Society of Information Management. This organization is a national organization with multitude of chapters, and we are fortunate enough here in Connecticut that we have 2 chapters. We have a southern one, and I am part of the Central Connecticut chapter. I'm currently the president. The last 2 years I was vice president, and since January for the next 2 years, I'm committed to be a president. And one of the objectives we have for the Society of Information Management and our Connecticut chapter is to create an environment for technology leadership, for areas of opportunity where people can network, learn from each other, and continue to be aware of what's going on from an industry perspective. And more importantly, we also focus on paying it forward with scholarships.
Nice.
And also we kind of get in front of students that are kind of thinking about information management but quite haven't decided, especially around when they are majoring maybe in finance or business, to encourage them to take on additional courses in information management or become a dual major. With that said, my mission for 2025 is not only to continue bringing value of SIM and to everyone, but to increase our membership as well as engagement.
That's awesome. And I love how for your different meetings that you bring in a subject matter expert.
Sure.
And they come and they're the leader in their field and they help to share this knowledge, just as you said, they share this knowledge with other people.
That's right. We have monthly events, which they're being advertised on LinkedIn. And if you are a technology leader and you're interested to know about it, we would love to host you as a guest. And then you can evaluate whether or not you're interested to join us as members. So we are very excited to be announcing every month a whole bunch of new members, and that attests to the value that the organization is bringing to the community and creating a very collaborative community here in Greater Hartford, Central Connecticut.
And to the leadership as well.
Yes.
Of course. And on top of many of your accomplishments with SIM and being a CIO and these different things, I think it's really important for our viewers to know that there's a whole other side of you as well, that you've been an amazing mother and building an amazing family. And I want you to share a little bit more about that.
Well, I am very proud of my daughter. She is a pediatric dentist. And what I would want to share with you is that, I always try to show her that it's important to work hard and that sweat equity does pay off, but not immediately, only over time. And it takes a lot of hours and persistence and resilience because, not everything comes easy, and you have to not only work hard, but be patient and overcome blockers and challenges. And I think part of all of that, it's grounded in having a goal and a strategy. But remember, we talked about incremental. Yes, we need to know what our end goal is, but we have to have near-term goals and be able to achieve them so that you can continue feeling that you're being successful.
A sense of accomplishment.
A sense of accomplishment, achievement. And I have been trying to bring all those values and thought processes to her, and she has watched me throughout my career of 30 plus years, with some of the ups and downs of projects, challenges of budgets, trying to achieve some goals, and it does require persistence and resilience.
I like that. And is there something that you feel like you did to help encourage her, or maybe you did it by leading by example, to go and kind of search and find this passion? Because I feel like one thing I hear from you often is passion.
Yes, I think probably all of this is only grounded in passion and finding your passion. And once you find the passion, is really understanding why you're interested and why you're so passionate about it. And in her case, I wanted to make sure that she recognizes what is her passion, which she has, and then how on a day in, day out basis she brings value. In her case, example, to her patients, and how she impacts lives. But doesn't matter what you select from your career perspective, but knowing what your passion is and what value you can give to the community, to your customers, to your family. What does it mean is what will drive you to get there.
Mm-hmm. And we were just, it's funny you were talking about that just the other week we were working with a group of individuals on Ikigai.
Okay.
Kind of the Japanese methodology of kind of finding that passion, that purpose, what you can get paid for, but also what the world needs. And it's kind of that intersection
absolutely.
That makes it all work.
Absolutely. And yes, you do want to have a career that actually pays.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, if you select what it is that you want to do and you find self-satisfaction and excitement, somehow that magic happens and you somehow figure out how to make it financially rewarding.
Mm-hmm. You find a way.
You find a way.
That's great. And I'm curious too for you, and it seems like you found this passion in technology. What was it that drew you to technology, or technology drew you to it?
Yeah. So I think earlier in my career, when I started, I learned quickly that technology can bring in solutions and ideas to the table where business has a challenge, or it is something that they have an issue and they need to solve it. Maybe it's a data quality issue. Maybe it's getting faster to the market or reduce the turnaround times. And I learned quickly that technology can solve problems. So to me, what I found passion in is solving problems.
Solving problems.
Solving problems.
That was your passion.
That was my passion.
More so than technology.
And technology is a tool. Is a capability that allows me to solve problems, right? In some situations, it is not technology. It is people, and it's connecting people and collaborating with people and helping them to see beyond the immediate, right? But for me, is the more complex the challenge is, the more excited I get to find the solution. And to me, there is no problem that doesn't have a solution. Now, that the solution may not be perfect, and that's okay. And that's okay. I think the other thing I learned that I like to share with you is the fact that oftentimes a lot of leaders are risk adverse and they don't want to make decisions that potentially has an impact to their career and well-being from a position perspective. And what they are not realizing is that when you don't make a decision, actually you are making a decision. And by not doing something or choosing option 1 versus option 2, you're really selecting option 3, which is a standstill, right? And that is something that oftentimes people don't think about. So for me, my passion is to think about the options, pros and cons, and then making a decision that is risk-based, and then being able to be flexible and change along the way.
My mentor, when I was in my master's program, he always reiterated the fact that perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yes.
And you have to make a decision. You have to move one way or another.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like another special skill that you bring to the table on top of some of these things that we already discussed is that you're multilingual.
Yes.
And this is a unique skill that I also speak different languages, but I feel like for you, I'd love to hear how has this kind of helped shape your career, given you different perspectives, and enabled you to do so well at work?
Yeah, so I think anyone who knows another language, languages, or doesn't matter what language it is a door, if you will, to the culture.
Definitely.
Right? whatever language that is. And knowing multiple languages and having also my own career with the international and the global level, you tend to be more empathetic. You try to understand where people come from and be able to lead not only with empathy, but in such a way that is collaborative and allows space to launch, whether it's new technology, if it's divestiture, and or even shut down, and whatever it may be. But having that background has given me the ability to think about different perspective and recognizing when people have certain reaction, what were they coming from, and at least meet them part way.
And the magical thing about that is it doesn't necessarily have to be the language that they're speaking. Correct. Or they have a second language and you speak that same language.
That's right.
That's not the important thing.
No, it's just recognizing that everybody's point of view is of value, and that their point of view is grounded in their culture, in their value system. So you have to be open to that and have open communication. Yeah.
And I love it sometimes when in different languages you can't find the exact word to describe something, and it's to your point exactly that it kind of gives you this little unique, little different perspective.
That's right.
There isn't that exact word.
Yeah. I have to share with you a couple of things. One is at a personal level. In the last a few years that I was the CIO of Aetna International, I was able to really meet people from different places, from China, Thailand, Singapore, UAE, UK, and be exposed to people from different cultures and backgrounds. And that has been a gift. And actually strike relationships and friendships that have lasted across the globe,
That's
right?
Great.
And I'm still able to meet with them on regular basis and communicate around our families and how things are changing or what are we celebrating, whether it's Chinese New Year or some other holidays. So that is such an enriching opportunity. But also, when you think about work and creating roadmaps, I think it helps when you are thinking strategy as how to bring people together and implement a strategy that maybe at the end of the day ends up being a divestiture or a shutdown. But once people understand the goals and you work with them as how to manage that, it becomes a successful endeavor.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. And maybe we can shift gears a little bit now. And you've had a 30 plus year amazing career and it's still going strong and doing different projects, different activities. But I always think it's curious and interesting to ask someone like yourself, maybe look back, maybe when you were 18 years old or maybe you're 30 years old. What would you tell your 18-year-old self or your 30-year-old self right now, looking back?
I think if I was able to redo this or tell myself, the 18-year-old, is that, besides selecting something that you're passionate about and really focusing on that, which we already talked about, but more importantly is finding a mentor or finding mentors, right? Because some of the times mentors are for a period of time, right? And I think having a mentor who you can speak to freely, they can provide you advice freely, is going to be important. And that would give you not only the help you need that very moment, but more importantly, opportunity to grow, right? Because there is someone else who's able to put up the mirror and help you to see yourself in the best way you can see, and identify your areas of opportunity and help you to round your skill set. So I think finding that mentor is critical. And right now, as a leader, as someone who's been around for so many years, I have found that continual mentorship is a critical job of mine, regardless whether it's at work or outside of work. And in fact, being a part of the SIM environment, it allows me to do more mentorship with those people who are new managers and leaders. And then I think it builds and adds value to yourself, but also it gives the opportunity for somebody else to leverage your experiences, and hopefully they're not making the same mistakes as you have.
Yeah, and also one expression I love too is the best way to learn is to teach.
Sure.
So if you have these
Absolutely.
mentors and you're helping to bring them along, you yourself also learn
That's
quite
right.
a bit as well.
That's right. That's right. I think it's important. So that would be my message back to my 18-year-old.
Awesome.
So are we turning time up to so many years ago? I
Yeah,
wish we could.
The time switch.
The time switch. Back to future,
Yeah,
right?
Back to the future. Yep, definitely. And we just have a couple minutes left here, so I'm curious if you want to elaborate a little bit more on kind of the mentor. You spoke about that a little bit, but if there's something else that we missed, just the importance of having a mentor in someone's life and career.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have some great mentors along the way. And mentorship doesn't have to be formal, right? It doesn't have to be that you have an executive leader who's mentoring you, let's say, as a director. I think mentorship can come in all sizes and ways, right? There are a lot, especially for women in technology. There is many women leaders who may be colleagues of yours, and they can look at information, situation in a different way and help you along. Certainly professional groups such as SIM can be a great opportunity, but I think creating this space for others to learn and flourish is everybody's responsibility. It's your responsibility as a leader, is a responsibility as an individual. You don't have to have a title to be a mentor to someone else.
That's great. And it's so powerful too, kind of the more you give, the more you get one way or another.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And with your role with SIM, being the president there and creating that community, you're creating lots of mentors and lots of mentees throughout that.
Absolutely.
And for our viewers who would want to get in touch with you or find out more about SIM, is there any information you want to provide?
So there is a SIM chapter page on LinkedIn. They can certainly contact there. We also have a SIM webpage for Central Connecticut. You can just Google it and find it there. But also I'm always available through LinkedIn. So all of that is possible.
Awesome. Well, I'm so grateful for you taking the time today. Learned so much, and I'm sure our viewers did as well. Thank you, Fariba.
Well, thank you very much. And I would love to get your perspective. I'm doing a 4-part article on AI and how leadership needs to evolve with that. I just published the first part. Love for you to review it and provide me your thoughts as well as your viewers.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.